Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Staring Down the Darkness. I'm Danny. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please hit the red subscribe button down there. If the subscribe button is red, you have not subscribed yet, and it costs you nothing just to hit that button. And then if you like the video, give it a like, hit the thumbs up, and hit the bell, and you'll get notifications of future videos. Sorry, I've got traffic going back and forth around here. Hopefully that's not too disruptive. It's a beautiful day out here. If you notice, I'm in the same spot I was in the previous video, and I'm trying to get a couple of videos done and in the can here so I can send my computer off to be repaired. It's trying to make sure there's no interruption in video releases for you guys, so you don't have to go a couple of weeks without seeing my beautiful face. Anyway, so today I want to talk to you a little bit about what I call tailspins, and that can be, tailspins are basically when you go into some kind of funk that lasts for long periods of time, and you just can't seem to right the ship. You can't seem to get it back together. You may not be completely depressed, but you're just kind of lost. You're kind of trying to navigate your way back to the path, and you're just trying to grab a hold of whatever you can to get you back on even ground. Tailspins can be triggered by many different things. It can be the loss of a loved one. It could be the loss of a pet. It could be the loss of a job that you really like. It could be just a breakup of a relationship. Things like this can send us into depressive states for sure, but a tailspin is not solely a depressive state that lasts for a long time. A tailspin could be multiple depressive states, and then mixed in with periods of when you feel like you're okay, but you're still kind of lost. You're still not quite yourself. I had one of these. I've had a couple of these in my life. I guess the most recent one was about 10 years ago. About 10 years ago, in 2008, so 11 years ago. In 2008, in the summertime of 2008, I lost a very dear friend of mine to cancer, and he had been battling cancer for a while. This was the toughest person I'd ever met in my life, and he was like a big brother to me. And I lost him to cancer. I went to his funeral in that summer. I believe it was the end of June or early July. And then in November of that year, my mother died suddenly, right before Thanksgiving. And exactly 2 weeks later, on her birthday, my father passed away. And so 3 big losses within a few months sent me into a really big tailspin. Now, it's weird when your parents pass away if you've had them a long time in your life. And they were married 55 years. So I kind of knew when my mom passed away that my dad wasn't going to be far behind. He wasn't in terrible health, but he wasn't in great health either. And I think I think he just died of a broken heart. But anyway, so I went into this tailspin that was probably lasted about 3 years, to where I just never really quite felt myself. And one of the things that happened, and looking back on it now, it's very strange to me how this is how it manifested with me, the grief and the loss and all that. I started, in my head, going backwards in time to a point back when I was in my late teens, early 20s. I started listening to music that was nothing, really almost nothing but that era. I started thinking about people I knew back then I started revisiting parts of my life from back then. And there were certain songs and certain things that I listened to over and over again. I listened to Freddie Mercury constantly. And songs, especially songs like The Show Must Go On, songs like Who Wants to Live Forever. And I held on to those because I was a big Queen fan back in the day. And I don't think I had ever really dealt with Freddie Mercury's death in '91. Like I said, if this seems weird to you, music is a big part of my life. And so I went in and almost started grieving for the first time the death of Freddie Mercury. And along with my parents, and along with my friend, and then about a year and a half after my parents died, we lost Farrah Fawcett and Michael Jackson on the same day. And it started feeling like I was grieving the loss of my childhood. And so everything that I listened to took me back to that time. And I started thinking that I don't really have a home to go back to anymore. I have family down where I'm from, but where I'm from is a resort town that was a small town, relatively small town when I left, and it's now a much bigger place, and a lot of the remnants of my childhood have been torn down to build hotels and this kind of thing. So it doesn't even look the same. One of the last times I went back to my hometown, I actually got lost because there were roads there that weren't there before. And so I felt like I didn't have a home to go back to. My hometown, my safe place, my comfort zone was over 30 years ago. There's nothing I could physically visit anymore. It's all here. And so I just went back there to live for a while. I still did my job. I still went about life as as if nothing was wrong. And if you had seen me, you probably would have thought, he's grieving, but he's doing all right. But in my head, I was in a tailspin. It took a good 3 years for me to get out of it. So when you have these type of things, sometimes they won't last 3 years. Sometimes they'll last 2 weeks. Sometimes they'll last 6 months. But the main thing about it is don't give up. You've got to ride it out. You've got to push through it and try to stay on the course as much as you're able to. Everybody grieves differently, and grief is a real thing. You got to allow yourself that time to do it. You don't want to get to the point where you don't want to come back. I still go to my hometown, my safe place in my head often. But I don't need to be there as much as I did 10 years ago. I still long for those days, but you got to be able to move forward. You can go visit, but you got to come back. Because one of the worst things you can do as a person with depression is try to live in the past. Because the past isn't there anymore. And even though it's alive in your head, you can't make that where you live. Because that's when you're not able to cope on a daily basis. Ride the tailspin out, but come back. Ask for help if you need it. There's no shame in that. Asking for help does not mean you're weak. You are strong. Asking for help does not mean you're weak. You're strong. So ask for help if you need it. Trust those you love close to you. But you have to come back. You have to be the person that goes from the present forward. Take the wisdom of the past with you. But live here, now, and move forward. Try to create yourself another safe place, another hometown, another comfort zone, here, now. As always, you matter. If you're in a tailspin, hold on. Try to find your way back. If you've ever had a tailspin and want to talk about it, leave it in the comments down below. I read all my comments. Let me know what happened and how you got out of it, if you're out of it. And we'll try to get you back. You matter. You're strong. Ask for help if you need it. I've asked for help. I'm not weak. Take care of yourselves. Come back to the present. Bring the wisdom with you. I'll see you next time.